Retirement is often seen as a destination, but we believe it's an opportunity to pursue your passions, realize your dreams, and live a purposeful life. Great decisions, incredible lives. Retire with Intention podcast is about more than just money. It's about embracing the things that truly matter, the experiences, the relationships, and the impact you leave behind. Here is your host, John Creekmur.
Hey everybody, this is John. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Great Decisions, Incredible Lives. And I'll tell you what, every single week, I love to chit chat with different people, friends of mine, maybe some from decades ago. And it's hard to believe I say decades ago. I guess it kind of ages me, but also new friends. And today I'm so interested to bring to the conversation is Jason Gamel. And I'll tell you what, phenomenal background, phenomenal work that he does. So interesting to me. But it's a topic that all of us love, and I've loved this topic for now 55 years, and so as I love it every single day. Stacy and I were actually Jason, we were just talking about this last night, about how we're going to actually execute on a couple of things coming up here over the holiday season, but also heading into next year. And so eager for the conversation. Jason, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Hey, could you start off and introduce yourself, give a background, and whatever you want to introduce everybody on, that'd be great.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you so much, John, for having me on. As you mentioned, name is Jason Gamel. I have the pleasure of serving as the president and CEO of ARDA, which is the American Resort Development Association, the trade association that represents the timeshare and vacation ownership industries. And to talk today about a topic I think is at the forefront of everyone's, right on the front of everyone's mind right now, which is where am I going to go on vacation next? And how am I going to vacation? And that's what's exciting, I think, for your audience, for the folks who have earned that right, worked hard through their careers, or thinking about what am I going to do when I even have more time than I do today. And we talk about how timeshare, I'm excited about talking about how timeshare and vacation ownership fits in to that plan, how people can utilize the product, what are some of the exciting things and the evolution of the industry, where are we going, and how can people be excited about the next 20 or 30 years of their life, and exactly what are they going to do with all that time, and how this product will fit right in.
To a phenomenal start. So have you always been involved in this industry, Jason, or did you come from somewhere else?
So I started, in 1998, I graduated from law school, actually late 1997. And like every attorney who goes to law school, the first thing they thought of was, how can I get a job practicing timeshare law? Because that's exactly what every TV show is about and exactly what they emphasize at law school. I was fortunate enough when I left law school, I sort of had some meandering, we'll just say, before I was able to get that first job. But when I got my first job out of law school, it happened to be with a law firm that specialized in real estate hospitality and just happened to have a specialty area expertise in timeshare. The people in the group that I worked for, they specialized in this area. They worked with all the major timeshare developers in the industry. And although I didn't certainly seek out hospitality law, I quickly found out it was fascinating. Yeah, it's, as I say, it's not rocket science, but some days it feels as complicated when you really look at the fact that the end product is a vacation, but the core product itself is real estate. And how it's sold and how it's regulated and how it's developed is a really intricate area. And after I practiced for a number of years, for 7 years, both on the East Coast in Orlando and the West Coast in Los Angeles, I was then able to work for the trade association the first time. And I did legislative and lobbying work on behalf of the industry. So I got to see what it was like, the laws, because timeshare is very much a creature of statute and regulation, that if it needs to grow and the industry evolves, it often has regulatory changes that come along with it. And then I had a chance to work for the largest timeshare developer in the world. I did that for 6.5 years, in-house legal counsel, really learned more about the business. And then the last 5, I've been leading the organization that is the voice of the timeshare industry, both at the state and federal level, but also from a communications and education perspective. So it's been a little over 25 years of all timeshare, a lot of hospitality, and
Yeah.
I have not yet had a boring day yet. And I know after this call, I'm going to say the exact same thing. This will not be a boring conversation.
That is for sure. You use the word evolution. In those 25 years, have you seen things change in the industry very much?
Things have changed in a big way. You look at the way that the industry started, and it's unfortunately the way that I think a lot of people still have in their head the way that the industry is today, which timeshare was this one sort of 1 week product. I buy it, I go back to the same resort on a regular basis. I may even have the exact same week, like a week 51 or week 52 in the same unit. And that's the way I vacation. Then exchange took place early in late 1990s or 2000s. There were companies that allowed me to trade my timeshare for somebody else's. It was a great way to experience another location or even get out of the country. Now you see all major hospitality brands are involved. Disney, Marriott, Hilton, Holiday Inn Club, Travel Leisure. There's so many there. You look at the people and the powerhouse brands that are part of the timeshare industry. You look at the product, which is very flexible. People have the opportunity to be able to buy as little or as much timeshare as they want. You don't have to use just a week anymore. You could have 2 or 3 day vacation here, a 4 or 5 day vacation there. And now what's really kind of exciting, John, is that experiences have become such a big part of this business, just like it has, I think, in the overall travel industry. You see that it's not just the resort, although the resorts are amazing, right? All the great amenities of, of a timeshare resort, the kitchens, the full kitchens, and the washing and dryer facilities, and everything that goes on to the resort, the spacious accommodations. It's exciting to see the way that the product has evolved and how people are using it.
So on that evolution,
Mhm.
do you think it's fully evolved or is it continuing to change into the future?
I think we're closer to the product that I believe is the almost end product. But every time I think of that spot, you realize you're wrong, right? Because when you looked, I think it was amazing. Again, it was 20, 30 years ago when it was just that fixed week, fixed unit. Then all of a sudden, wow, I can exchange it and go somewhere else. Now you've got this experiential platform, which I think is here to stay. That's not going to go away anytime soon. But I think there's still more evolution to take place. The evolution I think we'll see take place is the product from where it is today, that when you buy it, you own it. And the beautiful part about the real estate product, and for your listeners, those who own a real estate interest, generally speaking, they'll own it forever, just like any other piece of real estate until you decide to sell it to somebody else or transfer it to somebody else. It's yours. Well, I think there's a lot of people who ask themselves the question, well, what's going to happen when I can no longer use this product? Let's say that day comes where I just can't vacation the way I used to. Or, inevitably there'll be some type of estate transfer, right? When people pass on, then they're going to ask, what am I going to do with my timeshare at that point in time? And those questions, and also the way that people use the product in different areas of the world, will probably lead to shorter term products, things that may only last 10 years or 20 years
Mhm.
before they just naturally terminate. So I don't have to think about it. I could buy a 20-year product when I'm 60 years old, thinking to myself, well, I don't know how much longer after 80 I'll vacation, hopefully a lot. But then I just know I don't have to worry about what to do with it after.
We have so many listeners that are all across the spectrum. It's not a focused group that listens. Really, kind of age demographics different, geographic is different. Some have had experience, I think, in the timeshare space, maybe from a couple of decades ago, 2, 3, 4 decades ago. Some have no experience at all. And you've talked about how it's really about real estate right now. It's kind of where it's at. Can you even maybe bring things down to a really simple explanation of the timeshare space and what is it people are really doing and what are the ways they can get involved?
Great. We'll start with the active sales space, the people who are out there, because there's 1,500 timeshare resorts
Mm.
around the United States with about 10 million timeshare owner families. So if you look
Oh,
at the
yeah, is that
population, it's pretty big.
pretty big? So is that just in the United States, or is there some international exposure also?
There's a lot of international exposure. Those 10 million families may own all over the world.
Mm.
The last count, there's some, it's been a while since we've done, or there has been a worldwide study. But for the most part, you're going to be looking at several thousand, 3 or 4 thousand timeshare resorts across around the world, and even more exchange options, because
Mm.
exchange programs may allow you to go to a condominium complex or even exchange your timeshare for a hotel stay. So
Okay.
there's a lot of options for people. But when you look at what's being sold today, instead of it being the traditional 1 week a year, I would say the cutting edge product of today is we'll call it a points based product, although it's still a real estate product. It's a real estate, as a matter of fact, it's an interest in a real estate trust that you may either get a deed to that trust or you get a beneficial interest, a beneficial ownership interest, a trust certificate that says you own a beneficial interest in the trust property, which would be that timeshare property. when you look at what you own from a practical perspective, when you go to make a reservation, you'll see that you've got points in your account. Acts very much like any type of hotel loyalty program or airline program where you've got a certain number of points. You look at a chart and see where do you want to go, and then you see how many points it takes you to make that reservation for how long you want to go. And that product today is what you see really most major developers that are still in the active sales world turning to. They turn into this flexible product that allows you to be able to use it in many different ways. You can book experiences with those points. If you're with a major hotel branded company like, say, Marriott or Hilton, for instance, you can take your timeshare and even convert it into Hilton Honors points or Marriott Bonvoy points, and then book a hotel room using it. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of flexibility with people. So for someone today, if they're looking at getting into the product, they may already have this product. If they're looking to get into the product, they're going to see themselves looking to purchase something probably different than they would have 25 years ago when they would have received that deed for that week.
Mhm.
Now they're going to get an interest in a larger, let's say, trust that's going to give them these rights to use property and that's held in the trust.
Mhm.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just from a personal standpoint, way back in 2020, and this is before pre-COVID, right when COVID was like starting to flare up, Stacy and I were on vacation, and we decided, hey, we're going to have a 3-day getaway. And Stacy's like, John, if you do not have a program in place, you're never going to take vacation. I just love
Mhm.
to work. I love it. And we work together in the business, which is so fun and everything else, but we're kind of driven in what we do. And we love the folks we work with. So it's like you're never going to take a vacation unless you have something simple, a plan in place, a program. So we actually purchased our first timeshare program at that time. And we have had such a great experience in utilizing the points in so many different venues and different locations. It's worked well. But she did have to put a second rule because it's so flexible that I cannot convert the points to business trips whenever I'm traveling someplace to use it for my lodging for business. And she says, no, this is just for this purpose because it actually, I was very surprised, Jason, at how much flexibility I had and how it actually worked out well for our family. Now, that being said, there's some people from way back in the day, maybe in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, they had purchased ownership in a timeshare and they had a bad experience. Can you kind of walk through a little bit as far as what you've seen with your experiences and maybe what may have contributed to some of those bad experiences and how the product today is maybe a little bit different and what they should be looking for?
Well, I'll start with your experience, Sean, for 1 second. And I think
Yeah.
you highlighted something that is so important for your listeners and all timeshare owners to remember. Understanding how to use your timeshare and utilizing all of its benefits associated with it is so extremely important for someone to be happy and for someone to get the most out of ownership.
Mhm. Mhm.
You are a sophisticated user. You not only are using it for vacation, but you mentioned something that's very important, the ability to convert your points, maybe even use it for business travel or do something with it. Because as I wish there was a timeshare in every city and place you may want to travel to, you may find out it isn't. So converting that timeshare into other usage is a huge value proposition for your timeshare. And for you to be able to make the reservations early enough and make these decisions when you're supposed to tells me that you're going to maximize its benefits.
Mhm.
It is not easy sometimes, these reservation systems, is to understand fully how to make these reservations, use them. It takes technology. It reminds me of, I don't know if you ever, the first time I bought a car that had we'll just say a keyless ignition. It
Mhm.
had both a key ignition, but you could also start the car by just using the key fob and pressing a button. It wasn't until about 6 months, though, did I finally figure out where that button was. Yeah, I just always kept inserting the key fob into the regular key ignition. And finally, I asked somebody, I said, well, where is this magical on off button? And it wasn't until I found out where it was. I'm like, oh my gosh, I hadn't been utilizing this car or this technology to its fullest. And I was frustrated by it. People can feel the same way about timeshare. They buy a timeshare, the rules get complicated, they might forget how to do it. And then all of a sudden they realize they kind of fall out of love of their timeshare because
Mhm.
it just becomes a nuisance. They start paying the maintenance fees. They don't know how to make the reservation. It's too difficult, or it didn't work, or maybe I didn't plan out far enough because I think that's important to understand about timeshare. It's not the perfect product for oh, I need to go travel tomorrow or a week from now.
Mhm.
You to be able to utilize it and get the reservations you want, you usually have to plan a few months in advance at least, or a little further in advance than you might otherwise do so. And that's an important lesson. You have to know the rules. You have to be able to use it the right way. And that's what will ultimately lead to happiness.
Mhm. There's a lot of things that go through it as far as having understanding and understanding the package, understanding the rules, understanding the real estate contract you've entered into. And with that, I know there has to be a high level of legislative oversight at some level, right? Can you kind of walk through from more of a legislative standpoint? Are you seeing law come into place? Are you seeing rules come into place from governmental organizations that kind of give some stability around the entire industry?
The timeshare industry might be one of the most highly regulated industries that I almost ever come across. It almost feels to me sometimes that I am looking at like prescription drug sales, that when you look at the list of harms and things that may come along with it, I'm surprised we haven't had to have a similar disclaimer in timeshare. But you realize when you advertise for a timeshare, this is a great example of the 38 states, there are 38 states, United States, that have timeshare acts out there. So there's a lot that regulates it. So when you think of timeshare as being real estate, anything that affects the sale of real estate affects timeshare. The financing of real estate, just like when you buy a home, it is residential real estate. You have all of very close to the same restrictions, except for, and it's a very important regulatory note in 2009, the timeshare industry were able to exempt ourselves from all of the financial reg reform that took place in 2009. So when you're on vacation and you want to purchase a timeshare and you sign up for financing, you don't need 2 years tax returns. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need your last 2 months of pay stubs. You don't need everything that goes into a residential mortgage today for a home for a primary residence. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little different. But there are regulations in all states regarding disclosure of information, a public offering statement that you need, the developer needs to provide to a consumer. It always comes with a rescission right at a bare minimum, usually 3 or 5 days is a bare minimum rescission right. States like Florida, it's 10. In some of the, so you look at there's always a place and time where you have a chance to think about your purchase and to be able to cancel without penalty. And then there's all of the things that go into other types of good consumer protection. When you pay money before your rescission period's over, your money goes into escrow. So that way it's safe and protected. So there's a number of things. The regulatory world, both at the state and federal level, the federal level, it's everything you'd expect that goes along with a sale and marketing of a product too, telemarketing laws and all. And there's a lot of regulations at the state level that we work closely with all the regulatory agencies as the trade association to make sure you've got a good business environment for the developers to grow and change and evolve, but also a very good one for consumers so that way consumers are protected. And that's another big thing we do. We work with a lot of attorneys general, we work with state consumer protection agencies to help prevent scams and to
Mm-hmm.
help keep owners and consumers safe.
No, too, Jason, I love how ARDA is involved in really looking out for the consumer and working with different regulatory agencies to make sure that we have proper rules in place of protections for the consumer. And so the protection side is really important,
Mhm.
but also the education side, I think, is equally as important. Can you kind of walk through what role does ARDA play as far as with maybe new travelers or even seasoned travelers about the benefits of ownership? Is there educational resources? Is there a website that they can go to? Is there other tools to be used? Help people as far as come along, as far as to be able to fully maximize their vacation opportunities?
There's a good news out there. There's a lot of great information about the timeshare industry, especially if you either look directly from the companies themselves. When looking to the trade association, we're trying to do our best to educate consumers on the benefits of timeshare and how to make a right decision and to purchase a timeshare. At our website at arda.org, we have a significant number of resources at ardaroc.org, ARDAROC. Org. That's where we have all the things we're doing from a consumer protection standpoint, the things that we work on with regulatory agencies to help try to protect consumers. We also have, when you're talking about those consumers first looking to buy a timeshare and what kind of questions, and we have a great article on our website to the 5 questions you need to ask yourself
Hmm.
when you're looking to buy a timeshare. Because just like your situation, you probably thought about it for a while. You may have even done some research on the company before you bought it. You're doing your research is so important, just like it is when you're finding yourself an advisor to help you with your wealth management all your years and your retirement planning. You take a look, you have to ask your questions. You're going to do your own homework and make sure you're getting the right fit for where you want a vacation or how you want to use the product. And then what's your plan when you start saying to yourself, I can't use this anymore, what am I going to do? Am I going to pass it on to my kids? Am I going to want to sell it? Is there a program that my developer or my resort has where they'll take my timeshare back? Because when you buy this timeshare, the only investment you're really making here is an investment in your vacation future. Just like you, John, I bought a timeshare because I needed to force myself to take those vacations,
Mhm.
right? It was important to do that. So for me, the investment is in my vacation future. But when it comes to the value of a timeshare, the value it's in its use. Even though it's a real estate product, it's important to realize you're buying it to use it.
Mhm.
And after 20, 30, 40 years of using it, you've got your value. If you're able to sell it for something, great. Or if some many people are just happy giving it back to their developer and just saying, I'm out. And we have resources. We have a website that we started up back in 2018 called responsibleexit.com.
Hmm.
And that resource provides you with direct links to developers so that way you can see what programs they have to offer. They also, those same numbers will get you to people if you want to just transfer your timeshare to your kids or to a family member, they'll take care of those transactions for you. Many developers will. And they also provide, if you're looking to try to sell your timeshare, because maybe you do want to try to make a few dollars at the end of the day, there's some reputable resale companies that are members of our trade association
Mhm.
that you can contact for those services too.
I like that how you threw that word in reputable in there. And so I even know in pretty much every industry there's the reputable, there's also those that are not reputable. And
True.
so I think that's even by using the word, that's a good cautionary tale to tell people you want to do your homework. You want to make sure you pay attention to organizations like ARDA that have done a lot of due diligence on their own, that are able to give you the tips and tricks and the questions to ask to make sure you're making a wise decision because it's not just making the initial transaction. It's about how do you make any subsequent transactions and what is the ease in doing that and what is the proper way as far as to transition and exit responsibly. And just having those resources is absolutely phenomenal. Jason, what have you seen, just let's just say across the board, as far as with vacationing,
Mm.
choices, and lifestyle with the consumer here in the United States of America? Have you seen vacations change over the years, and how has that played in? So many folks that we work with here, they have a vision. We talk a lot about having their own definition of true wealth, which is all the things in life that money cannot buy and death cannot take away. And for so many folks, that centers around family, that centers around heritage, that centers around legacy. But having shared enjoyment also with vacation and trips plays into that. Have you seen things change, or is that just me in my mind of like this aspirational way I want to live? Have you seen vacations change over the years?
We've seen some great changes, and I think you make some great points, John, about that legacy. What are you trying to do? What is your legacy going to be? What are the memories your family is going to take when you pass on? We all pass on. What are our kids and our grandkids? What are they going to remember? What are our friends going to remember about their lives and about these trips? When you take a look at vacations, I'd say 20 years ago, they were very, well, almost say purposeful in where you're going. Like I'm going to a certain place. I may stay in this resort. I may go to this hotel. We're going to use the pool. We're going to do some things around. And that was sort of one area of travel. When you start seeing now multi-generational travel becoming even more popular.
Mhm.
People needing three, four, five, six bedrooms. When vacation rental properties all of a sudden started becoming a really hip and popular thing to do. When you turned certain companies, kind of like when searching on the internet became a to Google something, yeah, people might say, "Oh, I'm just staying in an Airbnb." Well, they're just referencing a general vacation rental, right? There's so
Right.
many great vacation rental platforms that you started seeing coming up that people were utilizing that it started a trend, right? It starts a trend that really trended right into the timeshare space, which was we need multiple bedrooms. We want common spaces to be able to get together with family, but we want to go to our separate corners when it's time for some private time.
Mhm.
So we look at timeshare. It's usually multi-bedroom. It all has a general spacious living accommodation. Even the timeshare I stayed in last year in Midtown New York had 950 square feet, two-bedroom unit with a kitchen. I mean,
Mm.
my family was still able to sit around a table and have dinner, which was
Right.
great. There was still a couch and a TV area to watch TV. Those things are really important. And when you look at multi-generational travel, you look at the last 5 years where people started wanting both international locations, because we saw a lot of international travel over the last couple of years, but they want to drive to locations. Where can I go and just get in the car and go?
Mhm.
Within maybe 10 to 12 hours of where I live, which I'm on the Eastern Seaboard. There's a lot of places you can get to in 10 to 12 hours. And there's a great opportunity to do outdoor activities as well as in, and that experiential travel. What do I get down more? And I think that's the evolution that we're seeing now is, yes, I want to go, but what are we going to do when we get there? The resort now becomes my launch pad for
Mhm.
everything that I can do outside of just the resort. So
Mhm.
what kind of concerts can I go to? The culinary experiences, sporting events. You see now travel being bundled, that it's
Mhm.
not just the accommodations, not just the destinations. What am I going to do when I get there that provides me with an experience and a memory that our family is going to say, wow, that was worth that cost and expense. And when you're in a timeshare resort or a timeshare, especially for those who've owned it for a while, and you may be in a situation once you paid off your mortgage or you're no longer owing on it, you have just a maintenance fee. I know exactly what my vacation is going to cost me from an accommodation standpoint every year.
Mhm.
I know what my maintenance fee is going to be, plus or minus a couple percent. I know exactly how much that's going to cost. Everything else I can plan from it and say, geez, I've already kind of paid for my vacation. Now I can spend it all on great restaurants. I can spend it on shows. I can spend it on the experiences.
I'll tell you what, a little personal example, I've been a number of them here. We have three boys, and they're all adult children now, and so all married. And we've come to realize that the major holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's hard to get everyone together because now we have the in-laws, we have the outlaws, we have all that going on. And so we just said, hey, we're going to host Thanksgiving. If you can make it great, if not, that's fine. And Christmas, we're going to try to meet at this time. It'd be great to get together, all of us, but we're going to claim Labor Day. And so everyone takes Labor Day. We're off on Monday. Let's travel on Friday. Let's go to some destination. We started using our timeshare, and we tell them, hey, here's a website to go to. You guys pick where you want to go, but there has to be certain things as far as the facility. We need to have 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. We need to
Mhm.
have private area, but also big area for all of us to grad, just like you talked about, Jason. And that's how we're actually utilizing our timeshare right now. And it's been a great way for us to actually use that product that we purchased years ago that I was being forced to purchase to be forced to take vacation and get out of my office trend. But we've actually graduated in our thinking, and it's been a phenomenal on actually building into the legacy of our family. And so you're so right. It's developed over the years and how folks use it, and it's just
Mhm.
really encouraging to see.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more in that assessment. Oddly enough, in 2 weeks, we will be heading to Williamsburg, Virginia, to stay in my in-laws' timeshare, and we're gonna. There's four different families coming together. I think we have 4 2-bedroom units that, or maybe even more. There might be 5 or 6 total units, and so we're taking over a number of units at a timeshare resort, and it makes it all that much more comfortable for us to be able to go with our family, knowing we're not all crowding into a hotel room. I got to say, John, it's not a vacation if I'm sleeping in the same room with my kids. It just isn't. It just becomes it's just a place to stay. And my wife will tell you, as much as she loves the children, it's like that we want our privacy at night. They need to be in another room. That's how we're all going to get through a vacation.
Right, right, for sure. We would have good memories, right? Not
Yeah.
PTSD from that. So it's a lot of fun. The man, Jason, we have been talking. It's amazing how fast we've gone here. Hey, and you've put out a couple different great sites, artarock.org,
Mhm.
phenomenal resource to go to. Also, responsibleexit.com. If someone has one and a timeshare, and they're kind of thinking through what does it look like to transition away. Phenomenal resource, guys. I'm telling you, I was on that site a little while ago, and tremendous amount of resources and great ways to kind of think through things. Jason, any other websites or any other tools that people can go as far as gain more education or to behave more responsibly in this space?
Yeah, if they again, there's a lot of research. If people are interested in learning about the industry, kind of understanding what's part of it, on that ARDA.org website, we have a whole research library that's free. All the research there is free, including consumer data. If you want to understand how timeshare owners act differently from the regular travel, that's all there. I think there's some great resources on responsible exit. Like I said, you can get to a lot of developer websites to learn about their products. You could also learn how to avoid scams. I've got some of that
Mhm.
information. We've had some articles featured in AARP and some other places, which are all posted on that website just in case you're getting calls. And,
Mhm.
I'll just give a little bit of one little plug there about education and about what your listeners might be thinking if they ever are in that situation where they're thinking about exiting their timeshare. Be careful about paying anybody upfront fees. Yeah, be careful about paying people to go out there who can guarantee you things about making promises that are too good to be true. It's just great, solid advice no matter what. But understand that we've got also an 800 number and an email address that you'll get on that Responsible Exit website, where we have people that could go ahead and answer all types of questions people may have about their timeshare, about companies. Got a lot, decades worth of experience, people who can help with questions.
Yep, I love that. That's great. Hey, before we wrap up, Jason, anything else that we've not talked about you think would be great for listeners to hear right now?
I think we've covered an awful lot, John. I think if they've got questions, they know they've got great resources with yourself and your network. I think when they're looking at how they use your timeshare, make sure to understand how to use it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Use those phone numbers and call, because if you haven't been using it, then you're probably a little bit disgruntled about the purchase. And the more that you're educated about this, the more that you know, I think the happier you're going to be, and the better this product is going to be for you and your family for generations.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for spending time today. Jason Gamel from the ARDA, the American Resort Development Association. And everybody knows, there's in the show notes, there's links down to different websites that were mentioned here today. And make sure you check that out and make sure you're educated. If you have questions, feel free to send me questions as far as a follow-up. Love to connect with everybody. Jason, again, thank you so much. And all the listeners, thank you for listening again. And so appreciate you guys. And we'll be back here next week. And any questions pop up, give me a holler. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you again for listening to the Great Decisions, Incredible Lives, Retire with Intention podcast with host John Creekmur. Follow us on social media, visit our website, and join our community of like-minded individuals redefining retirement and living incredible lives. Please leave us a review and share our podcast with others who may benefit. We wish you a future filled with purpose, fulfillment, and the joy of living your incredible life in retirement.